Hello and welcome to the Phoenix 5 Info Show. I'm your host, Lieutenant Vince Lewis, coming to you once again from Phoenix Police Headquarters in beautiful downtown Phoenix with my co-host, PAO Sergeant Rob Scherer. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be here, boss.
Today's a very important topic. We're going through a lot of topics through April that we're having these discussions on, but we definitely want to introduce our very special guests from the Family Advocacy Center. Michelle D'Alba, you are a Victims Advocate Supervisor?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Welcome back to the show.
Yeah.
You've been on before.
Yes, I have. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Assistant Chief DeCastro, Ed DeCastro, over our Investigations Division.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for having me, guys.
that's our violent crimes, homicides,
Family crimes.
family crimes, which we're going to discuss now. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the city is taking on an initiative. It's an annual initiative. It's called Let's Talk Teal. Michelle, let's talk teal.
Okay.
Tell me about what we need to know.
Let's talk teal. So just like you mentioned, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So basically, it's a strategic initiative with the city of Phoenix where we go out to the public, the community, and we educate them about the topic of sexual assault. It's a very, the topic, there's a lot of stigma behind it. You know, so initially at our agency, we try to go out to the schools and educate the students. We'll go to community colleges, universities, and say, hey, this is important. This is what's going on. And we actually have services for some of y'all if this ever happens to you. And that's what we do.
Okay. So sexual assault, we might approach it like a broad topic, but really there's several different crimes and several different scenarios where something might happen that could fall into that category, correct? So anywhere from sexual assault, which I guess by the statutes we would consider rape.
Yes.
Some other people might think being assaulted in a sexual manner is sexual assault. We have to determine where the crime fits, but what does the Victims Advocacy Center, how do they approach the broad spectrum of topics? What kind of things do you offer?
So initially the client will come in, and they'll say, I was actually sexually assaulted. And we don't get into the details of that because there's a lot of shame that comes with that. So, but we'll just say, we can assist you in filing for a restraining order. If that's something you're wanting, we can guide you with that process, even connect you to the courts where you can have a hearing. We'll provide them, of course, with some counseling, do some safety planning just because it's so individualized. We don't really know exactly what happened, but we'll ask some detailed questions and that's about it. It just depends what they're needing and we're trying to just meet them where they're at.
Now, they don't necessarily need to report a crime, am I right? Like they can come to you guys for any services,
Yes.
whether they're reporting or not reporting,
Yes.
whether it happened last week, last year,
Yes.
10 years ago, whatever it
Yes.
is, you guys are going to provide those services that they need. Is it, when they come in, now, how long have you been an advocate? You're a supervisor now,
I've been
right?
there for 7 years.
Okay. So when you go through some of these processes, what are some stigmas that you talked about? Because obviously it's kind of an underreported crime from from the law enforcement world, and we always try to have more of those reporting. It sometimes makes our numbers go up, but we're fine with that as long as we get as much reporting as we can. What are some of those stigmas that you see as an advocate that you're trying to fight through when you're helping these people out?
So I always think about like the cultural and societal norms. And of course, the rape myths. There's this obscure responsibility that gets taken off sometimes from these perpetrators, where the clients, that's where that shame comes in, where they're like, maybe I shouldn't have worn this, or maybe I shouldn't have been too friendly. I was just being myself, and then they literally did something to me. They violated me in my body. I told them no, and they thought I was saying yes. So that's where we come in and we educate them and saying, this was not your fault. Nobody should ever do this to you. Doesn't matter who it is, what it is. No means no. And that's where we really do that victimization education to try to empower them. And we see them more as survivors, not so much like victims.
Where can we go to learn more about the center where you work and some of the...
So you can go online, New City Phoenix Family Advocacy Center, and you guys can always call us too. So we have advocates that are on the phones Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And I know sometimes, especially with sex assault, some of the victims don't feel comfortable coming in, and they can just speak to someone and get some resources and just, again, some education or whatever it is that they're needing in that moment.
How do you guys work with, and if you do, how do you guys work with some of the detectives when there is a reported crime? Like, is there some dialogue, is there some standard work process that these detectives that are working on these cases and trying to find that person and hold them accountable, how do you guys go about working with some of the process that we're doing?
So they send us referrals. So we work with the Family Investigations Bureau, And we initially will contact the victims and say, hey, this is who we are. These are the type of services we provide. There's times the detectives will come and say, hey, I have my victim here. I'm interviewing them. Can you guys meet with them? They're real emotional. I think they would benefit from some therapy or just some of that victimization education. It just varies. So, but we're always trying to go out there and on their side, because we're in the same building,
Right.
but we know there's times where we get new detectives, new sergeants, lieutenants over. So we always try to go over there, introduce ourselves, and say, hey, we're here. If any of your victims need our services, definitely stop by, and so forth.
And Michelle, you had mentioned that you had worked with Chief DeCastro prior.
Yes, I have.
Wait,
Mhm.
was that over at the Family Investigations Bureau?
Yes.
Yes. So when I was the commander over our Family Investigations Bureau, we worked closely together. And like she was saying, there's a partnership between both sides. So we try to cross that wall often. But the detectives and the advocates work really well together, I think. And they both kind of know each other's roles. So it makes it very easy and seamless.
Mm-hmm. So we want to talk about a development that's debuting this week. There's something that's we're going to be doing differently and better, hopefully. So in previous cases, we knew that if somebody wanted to track a piece of evidence from their case, they would get a hold of the case detective, the case agent to do that. Well, we're going through a new process that's going to make the tracking of those sexual assault evidence kits easier. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, so one of the things that happens during one of these cases is that the survivor has to go through a sex assault examination by a certified nurse. And so that kit is the one that gets tested for DNA and things like that. In the past, like you said, it's usually based off of calling the case agent and trying to figure out where that is in its process, from being collected to being processed at the lab, and then getting the results, and then what's going to happen afterwards if there is a suspect that we can arrest. In the past, it's been a little clunky, and so now we're using technology to our advantage. So the city has leveraged Community Connect, which used to be called Spider Tech, and we started that last year for crime notifications on other crimes, on property crimes, assaults, and something else. But that gave victims an idea of where their case was in the process. We've just tweaked it a little bit to be able to do the same thing now with the sex assault kits. So starting on Tuesday, it'll go live where the survivors will be able to go into the portal and see exactly where their kit is in the process between collection to apprehension, hopefully, of the suspect. It's completely anonymous if they want it to be, and they'll still get information as far as getting resources from the advocate. They'll still have access to the advocates, and they'll have the name of the detective quickly, so they can go back and talk to the case agent immediately about what's going on. And that communication between the survivor and the detective is pretty close, so they stay in contact often. So this, I think, will really help make sure that the victim or the survivor really has ownership of a piece of them, literally.
Yeah, I think it's, and I'm kind of maybe putting both of you guys on the spot, so I apologize. But what do you guys, just from your experience in the Bureau, boss, and then obviously your experience as an advocate, having that power, obviously you said this is like you're victimizing your body. You know what I mean? These survivors have that, that element going on and dealing with some of the things that they're going to go through. What does having that power of being able to real time, hey, this is where this is at. What do you think that would do for them? What does that help with them?
I would say that it lets them feel some sense of control, because as I said, with sexual assault, you're violating someone. And if they can have that, it's probably going to make them feel better and safer, because at the end of the day, it's initially always about safety. And like I said, with sex assault, there's a lot of shame that comes with that, meaning, what did I do? Oh my gosh, it's my fault. I can't believe this happened to me, when it's not them. It's just that there's perpetrators out there that do things that are not okay. So that's what I would think it's all about. I'm being in control now.
And I think along those same lines, sometimes that stigma, they feel uncomfortable calling even the detective that they've built a bond with. They don't want to be the pushy person, or they don't want to be the one that calls every day. Well, this way they can do it online through the portal, see exactly where their case is, so they don't have to worry about it. And then if there is a change, they could always call the case agent to see what the next steps are, what the progress is.
So, boss, you've been involved in, or at least you have knowledge of this for quite some time. Can you speak to the evolution of investigations into sexual assaults? Because, well, I remember there was a point in time where not all the kits were tested because, resources, investigations, and so forth. A decision was made to go ahead and test all the kits. And since then, we've been working with partners, outsourcing kits, and doing our best at our lab to try to work through, I guess, what they would refer to the backlog. Because Assistant Director Jody Wolf has already spoken on this show about that and how we're approaching that. But can you speak at least to the evolution of investigations into sexual assault, what improvements you've seen, or how much better are we?
I think we're a lot better than we used to. To your point, we had a huge backlog that we just were not getting to. Several years ago, we wound up taking that bull by the horns. We wound up getting grants to be able to have lab personnel, scientists go through the kits. We outsourced a lot of them. So we went from literally thousands that were untested down to none at some point. COVID kind of ramped us back up a little bit, but now the crime lab is still doing an excellent job of staying on top of those. And when we get those, they are testing them pretty fast, within days, to be able to try to get some evidence for the detective to move forward with. Honestly, with sex assault investigations, today, with the amount of technology that is out there, there are very few true unknown suspects. Most of the suspects are known in one way or another, or people are talking to each other on texts or dating apps or some form of video. So we usually have an idea of who the person is. It's just a matter of being able to get all the evidence together to be able to go through with the prosecution.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chief, for talking
Of course,
about
anytime.
where we're at. We appreciate that. Michelle, thank you for coming back on the show and talking teal with us.
Yeah, no problem.
I want to thank you, Rob, co-host, for always being there
Thank you.
when you are here.
Yes, every once in a while.
And thank you guys.
You're welcome. Thank the crew for producing. Thank you, the viewer, listener. Just remember, you can catch the video versions of these shows on our YouTube channel, Phoenix Police. And I just want to remind everybody that you too can help solve crime in your community by sending tips to Silent Witness. Visit silentwitness.org and call 480-WITNESS. We are on all social media platforms, so find us, follow us, like us, subscribe. We're hiring. Go to joinphxpd.com. And remember, we're all in this together.